Large areas of the world will not hear us till we have publicly disowned much of our past. Why should they? We have shouted the name of Christ and enacted the service of Moloch. It may be thought that I should not end this chapter without a word about our love for animals. But that will fit in better in the next. Whether animals are in fact subpersonal or not, they are never loved as if they were. The fact or the illusion of personality is always present, so that love for them is really an instance of that affection which is the subject of the following chapter. Chapter 3. Affection. I begin with the humblest and most widely diffused of loves, the love in which our experience seems to differ least from that of the animals. Let me add at once that I do not on that account give it a lower value. Nothing in man is either worse or better for being shared with the beasts. When we blame a man for being a mere animal, we mean not that he displays animal characteristics, we all do, but that he displays these, and only these, on occasions where the specifically human was demanded. When we call him brutal, we usually mean that he commits cruelties impossible to most real brutes, they're not clever enough. The Greeks called this love storge, 2 syllables and the G is hard. I shall here call it simply affection. My Greek lexicon defines storge as affection, especially of parents to offspring, but also of offspring to parents. And that, I have no doubt, is the original form of the thing as well as the central meaning of the word. The image we must start with is that of a mother nursing a baby, a bitch, or a cat with a basket full of puppies or kittens, all in a squeaking, nuzzling heap together, purrings, lickings, baby talk, milk, warmth, the smell of young life. The importance of this image is that it presents us at the very outset with a certain paradox. The need and need love of the young is obvious, so is the gift love of the mother. She gives birth, gives suck, gives protection. On the other hand, she must give birth or die. She must give suck or suffer. That way, her affection too is a need love. There is the paradox. It is a need love, but what it needs is to give. It is a gift love, but it needs to be needed. We shall have to return to this point. But even in animal life, and still more in our own, affection extends far beyond the relation of mother and young. This warm comfortableness, this satisfaction in being together, takes in all sorts of objects. It is indeed the least discriminating of loves. There are women for whom we can predict few wooers and men who are likely to have few friends. They have nothing to offer. But almost anyone can become an object of affection, the ugly, the stupid, even the exasperating. There need be no apparent fitness between those whom it unites. I have seen it felt for an imbecile not only by his parents but by his brothers. It ignores the barriers of age, sex, class, and education. It can exist between a clever young man from the university and an old nurse, though their minds inhabit different worlds. It ignores even the barriers of species. We see it not only between dog and man but, more surprisingly, between dog and cat. Gilbert White claims to have discovered it between a horse and a hen. Some of the novelists have seized this well. In Tristram Shandy, my father and Uncle Toby are so far from being united by any community of interests or ideas that they cannot converse for 10 minutes without cross purposes, but we are made to feel their deep mutual affection. So with Don Quixote and Sancho Panza, Pickwick and Sam Weller, Dick Swiveller and the Marchioness. So too, though probably without the author's conscious intention, in The Wind in the Willows, the quaternion of mole, rat, badger, and toad suggests the amazing heterogeneity possible between those who are bound by affection. But affection has its own criteria. Its objects have to be familiar. We can sometimes point to the very day and hour when we fell in love or began a new friendship. I doubt if we ever catch affection beginning. To become aware of it is to become aware that it has already been going on for some time. The use of old or view as a term of affection is significant. The dog barks at strangers who have never done it any harm and wags its tail for old acquaintances even if they never did it a good turn. The child will love a crusty old gardener who has hardly ever taken any notice of it and shrink from the visitor who is making every attempt to win its regard. But it must be an old gardener, one who has always been there, the short but seemingly immemorial always of childhood. Affection, as I have said, is the humblest love. It gives itself no airs. People can be proud of being in love, or of friendship. Affection is modest, even furtive and shamefaced. Once when I had remarked on the affection quite often found between cat and dog, my friend replied, "Yes. But I bet no dog would ever confess it to the other dogs." That is at least a good caricature of much human affection. "Let homely faces stay at home," says Comus. Now affection has a very homely face. So have many of those for whom we feel it. It is no proof of our refinement or perceptiveness that we love them, nor that they love us. What I have called appreciative love is no basic element in affection. It usually needs absence or bereavement to set us praising those to whom only affection binds us. We take them for granted, and this taking for granted, which is an outrage in erotic love, is here right and proper up to a point. It fits the comfortable, quiet nature of the feeling. Affection would not be affection if it was loudly and frequently expressed. To produce it in public is like getting your household furniture out for a move. It did very well in its place, but it looks shabby or tawdry or grotesque in the sunshine. Affection almost slinks or seeps through our lives. It lives with humble, undress, private things, soft slippers, old clothes, old jokes, the thump of a sleepy dog's tail on the kitchen floor, the sound of a sewing machine, a gollywog left on the lawn. But I must at once correct myself. I am talking of affection as it is when it exists apart from the other loves. It often does so exist, often not. As gin is not only a drink in itself but also a base for many mixed drinks, so affection, besides being a love itself, can enter into the other loves and color them all through and become the very medium in which from day to day they operate. They would not perhaps wear very well without it. To make a friend is not the same as to become affectionate. But when your friend has become an old friend, all those things about him which had originally nothing to do with the friendship become familiar and dear with familiarity. As for erotic love, I can imagine nothing more disagreeable than to experience it for more than a very short time without this homespun clothing of affection. That would be a most uneasy condition, either too angelic or too animal or each by turn, never quite great enough or little enough for man. There is indeed a peculiar charm, both in friendship and in eros, about those moments when appreciative love lies, as it were, curled up asleep, and the mere ease and ordinariness of the relationship, free as solitude, yet neither is alone, wraps us round. No need to talk. No need to make love. No needs at all except perhaps to stir the fire. This blending and overlapping of the loves is well kept before us by the fact that at most times and places all three of them had in common, as their expression, the kiss. In modern England friendship no longer uses it, but affection and eros do. It belongs so fully to both that we cannot now tell which borrowed it from the other or whether there were borrowing at all. To be sure, you may say that the kiss of affection differs from the kiss of eros. Yes, but not all kisses between lovers are lovers' kisses. Again, both these loves tend and it embarrasses many moderns to use a little language or baby talk. And this is not peculiar to the human species. Professor Lawrence has told us that when jackdaws are amorous their calls consist chiefly of infantile sounds reserved by adult jackdaws for these occasions. King Solomon's Ring, p. 158. We and the birds have the same excuse. Different sorts of tenderness are both tenderness, and the language of the earliest tenderness we have ever known is recalled to do duty for the new sort. One of the most remarkable byproducts of affection has not yet been mentioned. I have said that is not primarily an appreciative love. It is not discriminating. It can rub along with the most unpromising people. Yet oddly enough this very fact means that it can in the end make appreciations possible which, but for it might never have existed. We may say, and not quite untruly, that we have chosen our friends and the woman we love for their various excellences, for beauty, frankness, goodness of heart, wit, intelligence, or what not. But it had to be the particular kind of wit, the particular kind of beauty, the particular kind of goodness that we like, and we have our personal tastes in these matters. That is why friends and lovers feel that they were made for one another. The especial glory of affection is that it can unite those who most emphatically, even comically, are not, people who, if they had not found themselves put down by fate in the same household or community, would have had nothing to do with each other. If affection grows out of this, of course it often does not, their eyes begin to open. Growing fond of old so and so, at first simply because he happens to be there, I presently begin to see that there is something in him after all. The moment when one first says, really meaning it, that though he is not my sort of man he is a very good man in his own way, is one of liberation. It does not feel like that, we may feel only tolerant and indulgent. But really we have crossed a frontier. That in his own way means that we are getting beyond our own idiosyncrasies, that we are learning to appreciate goodness or intelligence in themselves, not merely goodness or intelligence flavored and served to suit our own palate. Dogs and cats should always be brought up together, said someone. It broadens their minds so. Affection broadens ours. Of all natural loves it is the most catholic, the least finical, the broadest. The people with whom you are thrown together in the family, the college, the mess, the ship, the religious house, are from this point of view a wider circle than the friends, however numerous, whom you have made for yourself in the outer world. By having a great many friends I do not prove that I have a wide appreciation of human excellence. You might as well say I prove the width of my literary taste by being able to enjoy all the books in my own study. The answer is the same in both cases. You chose those books. You chose those friends. Of course they suit you. The truly wide taste in reading is that which enables a man to find something for his needs on the sixpenny tray outside any second-hand bookshop. The truly wide taste in humanity will similarly find something to appreciate in the cross-section of humanity whom one has to meet every day. In my experience, it is affection that creates this taste, teaching us first to notice, then to endure, then to smile at, then to enjoy, and finally to appreciate, the people who happen to be there. Made for us? Thank God, no. They are themselves, odder than you could have believed and worth far more than we guessed. And now we are drawing near the point of danger. Affection, I have said, gives itself no airs. Charity, said St. Paul, is not puffed up. Affection can love the unattractive, God and his saints love the unlovable. Affection does not expect too much, turns a blind eye to faults, revives easily after quarrels, just so charity suffers long and is kind and forgives. Affection opens our eyes to goodness we could not have seen, or should not have appreciated without it. So does humble sanctity. If we dwelled exclusively on these resemblances, we might be led on to believe that this affection is not simply one of the natural loves but is love himself working in our human hearts and fulfilling the law. Were the Victorian novelists right after all? Is love, of this sort, really enough? Are the domestic affections, when in their best and fullest development, the same thing as the Christian life? The answer to all these questions, I submit, is certainly no. I do not mean simply that those novelists sometimes wrote as if they had never heard the text about hating wife and mother and one's own life also. That of course is true. The rivalry between all natural loves and the love of God is something a Christian dare not forget. God is the great rival, the ultimate object of human jealousy, that beauty, terrible as the Gorgons, which may at any moment steal from me, or it seems like stealing to me, my wife's or husband's or daughter's heart. The bitterness of some unbelief, though disguised even from those who feel it as anti-clericalism or hatred of superstition, is really due to this. But I am not at present thinking of that rivalry, we shall have to face it in a later chapter. For the moment our business is more down to earth. How many of these happy homes really exist? Worse still, are all the unhappy ones unhappy because affection is absent? I believe not. It can be present, causing the unhappiness. Nearly all the characteristics of this love are ambivalent. They may work for ill as well as for good. By itself, left simply to follow its own bent, it can darken and degrade human life. The debunkers and anti-sentimentalists have not said all the truth about it, but all they have said is true. Symptomatic of this, perhaps, is the odiousness of nearly all those treacly tunes and saccharine poems in which popular art expresses affection. They are odious because of their falsity. They represent as a ready-made recipe for bliss, and even for goodness, what is in fact only an opportunity. There is no hint that we shall have to do anything, only let affection pour over us like a warm shower bath, and all, it is implied, will be well. Affection, we have seen, includes both need love and gift love. I begin with the need, our craving for the affection of others. Now there is a clear reason why this craving, of all love cravings, easily becomes the most unreasonable. I have said that almost anyone may be the object of affection. Yes, and almost everyone expects to be. The egregious Mr. Pontifex in the way of all flesh is outraged to discover that his son does not love him. It is unnatural for a boy not to love his own father. It never occurs to him to ask whether, since the first day the boy can remember, he has ever done or said anything that could excite love. Similarly, at the beginning of King Lear the hero is shown as a very unlovable old man devoured with a ravenous appetite for affection. I am driven to literary examples because you, the reader, and I, do not live in the same neighborhood. If we did, there would unfortunately be no difficulty about replacing them with examples from real life. The thing happens every day. And we can see why. We all know that we must do something, if not to merit, at least to attract, erotic love or friendship. But affection is often assumed to be provided, ready-made, by nature, built in, laid on the house. We have a right to expect it. If the others do not give it, they are unnatural. This assumption is no doubt the distortion of a truth. Much has been built in. Because we are a mammalian species, instinct will provide at least some degree, often a high one, of maternal love. Because we are a social species, familiar association provides a milieu in which, if all goes well, affection will arise and grow strong without demanding any very shining qualities in its objects. If it is given a